Hello everybody, thanks for clicking in. I hope you're having a good week. I, for one, spent some time away, just got back, and they nerfed my class on me while I was away. I can't hardly believe it. So, anyways, I'm going to talk about some of the changes here. I've got a gameplay that I've been sitting on for a little bit, a couple days old. It's before the nerfs, so you may see some numbers that aren't relevant anymore. But anyways, so as far as changes are concerned, I'll just go in order of the patch notes. So for Coalescence of Ruin, that's Hammer 2, they reduced the damage coefficient from 1.75 to 1.45. Now, it's about a 33% damage reduction, and that's pretty heavy-handed. I think that the hammer wasn't really the weapon that was doing crazy damage. I think it was more Vindicator. Vindicator does a lot of damage, just kind of inherent to the class. It's got so many damage modifiers on it, and you can stack that on top of Swift Termination as well to, you know, add another 20%. You could take Sigil of, I believe it's Opportunity, for another 5%, and you can really crank that damage up. Nice little use of the glint heal there against Deadeye. That's pretty good. So really, I think that Vindicator is getting nerfed, but basically Herald and all the other Rev builds are suffering for it, which doesn't feel great. I would have liked to have seen, you know, maybe a change to the Vindicator's modifiers as opposed to the damage from the hammer. But we'll see. I've played around with it a little bit, and the hammer definitely doesn't hit super hard on non-Vindicator builds. Like on Herald, the hammer is feeling a little bit wimpy right now. I think a good crit for it on Herald is maybe 3 or 4K. So it's pretty tough, but I kind of understand where they're coming from, but I do wish that they would have gone about it another way. So that's the first change. The second one, they've lumped it into the same bullet point here. They say they've increased the height of the damage hitbox. I've done a good amount of playing around with it, and you know what, I have to say that this is a really nice change because they've really understated all that they've done to it. I find that now the Hammer 2 operates very differently from before. It will go up stairs and slopes, it will go down stairs and slopes. If a target is on a different sort of height than you are, it'll still hit them. It's way easier to hit that Hammer 2 now because of the hitbox change. See, look at that, when I'm fighting that warrior, just lay the CC on him, that's how you get him dead. So it's a nice thing. It kind of offsets the damage reduction in a way, but I'm not sure. I still think that maybe the damage reduction was a little bit heavy-handed. So it's a bit of a trade-off. You know, it's not completely net negative for Hammer 2 because you're going to be landing it more often, but when you do land it, it's not going to be hitting quite as hard. So anyways, okay, so that's the first bullet point. Next one being Field of Mists reduced the damage coefficient from 1.35 to 1.1. So that's the Hammer 4. And you know what? I think this one is fine. This one is fair. It's a defensive skill. It's not really supposed to do big damage. And you could make it do some kind of insane damage. I remember when I was farming clips for my How to Play Vindicator video, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that, go give it a watch. I put a lot of work into that video. When I was farming clips for that, I basically wanted to see how high I could pump up the damage on Hammer 4 by just exploiting as many damage modifiers as I possibly can. So like Opportunity, Sigil, Swift Termination, blah blah blah, everything I could. And there's a clip at the very start of that How to Play Vindicator video where I hit a guy for 8.5k with Hammer 4. And just the fact that a defensive skill could do that much damage was a bit silly. And so I think that this particular nerf is totally fine. I have zero qualms with it. So that one gets a check mark from me. Now the third one here, Urn of St. Victor reduces strike damage reduction and damage condition damage reduction from 50 to 33% in PvP, and increase the cooldown from 2 to 10 seconds in PvP. Now this change I have a huge bone to pick with, because I think that a support Rev build has just kind of been like lurking right below the surface for a long time now. I've played around with support Rev. There's some people in my comments that recommend support Rev. It's one of those things where it works, but it doesn't work quite well enough to be meta. And you know, for a long time everybody said that support Rev can never work because it's not got a res utility. But just recently, we've been seeing the rise of support Chrono that doesn't use any res utility other than the trait, but it's not got like an instant res at all. And so, you know, we just sort of started to see the needle tick more towards the support being able to not have that, especially with the nerfs to the banner on Warrior, the Signet on Guardian, and the glyph on Ellie. But, you know, it really should have been support Rev's moment in the sun, but instead it got nerfed, and sadly it got nerfed for Vindicator, for Power Vindicator. And I agree that, you know, having essentially an infinite heal button on a power DPS build isn't a good idea. However, I think that it is a very useful skill for a support build, and I think that support Rev is going to feel absolutely terrible to play. I think I would have liked to see the 2-second cooldown and 50% damage reduction kept on the one Grandmaster trait that makes the dodge heal. I think if they would have moved it there, and if you take Death Drop, the damage dodge, then you don't get that reduced cooldown, I think that would have been fine, because then, you know, support Rev is still allowed to exist, even, you know, even though it's a second banana, it's still allowed to exist. But you know, that would also take the healing down on Vindicator. So I think that would have been the way to go, would be to allow support Rev the reduced cooldown. So maybe we'll see that in the future, but it's kind of funny. Like, I think that ArenaNet has maybe a list of builds in their head that they want in the meta, and some builds get lots of love, right? They really want Berserker to be a thing, for instance, despite nobody else really wanting Berserker to be a thing, other than Plague TVX. If you remember him, shout out to you. That guy was a real OG. I liked him a lot. Plague TVX. His channel's gone now, but so he was the one guy who wanted Berserker, and he's gone. He's long quit the game. But yeah, they keep buffing Berserker, so they've got this list of builds that they want. For some reason, it seems that support Rev is not one of them. They don't really want support Rev to be much of a thing, so it's a bit sad. I would like to have multiple builds that you can play on Rev. You know, you can either play Power Herald, which is sort of a roamer DPS, or you can play Power Vindicator, which is sort of a roamer DPS. Renegade is sort of a niche meme that works sometimes. Support Rev, also a niche meme that works sometimes. And both of those things are just kind of outclassed. You know, why have a Renegade when you could have a Reaper? Or a Vindicator, for that matter. And why have a support Rev when you could have a support Chrono or a Firebrand? It's just not really a reason. So it would have been nice to see them be a little bit more gentle with old support Rev. You know, its bones are very weak and brittle. Doesn't have much of a leg to stand on. But sadly they didn't. Nice Jade there to stop him. I'll target on him. So overall, I think that it's not the worst patch. I think that the Hammer 2's working more consistently is going to be a really, really nice QOL change. I've played a few games with it, and it feels really nice. It feels a lot more consistent. If you are a Rev player, I urge you to play around with it and see what you can make it hit, because it's feeling pretty good. But yeah, it feels a little bit tough, the Hammer 2, when you're on Herald and not on Vindi nowadays, damage-wise, seeing it go so low, down to like 3 or 4k, but we'll see. We'll see how it ends up. I don't think that we'll be seeing Vindicator played in like monthlies anymore. Like, I think the last monthly, the team who won it used to support Vindi. I think that it's probably going to be not used. But that's okay. I'll still be playing Rev. I may do some old school Herald stuff with full old school build, you know, dual sword staff. May try that out for a little while. I saw Yule was playing that, and he absolutely owned me a few times on that. So might play that a little bit, and yeah, we'll just see where we go from there. Probably not support Rev though. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the changes and put a video out this week. So yeah, that's the end of this game, and that'll be the end of this video. Hit a little dance. Yeah, if you guys have any video requests, leave them down in the comments. That's all for me, and I'll see you next week.